Welcome back to Just Giants with Grump and the Cranky Fan, the best damn podcast for the best damn football team. I am your host, the Football Grump, and with me, as always, is Mike, the Cranky Fan.
What's going on, Grump? It is finally football season. It is training camp. That means Pat Leonard is writing bad articles overreacting, and it means Alex Wilson is stealing people's content. Welcome to football season, Grump.
Oh, man. Pat Leonard is writing articles in the spring to ask players how they felt about the articles in the summer, and then writes an article on their answer. Boy, that's something, huh?
I like the fact how after 2 days that the Giants really reconsider their whole plan with the offense since it's sputtering so bad. And, Daniel Jones, what's plan B? When is Tyrod Taylor going to get first team snaps? That's rich.
I mean, I think I'm one of the few people who are less infuriated by what Pat Leonard has done in the past 6 months, and more so, I don't want to say feel bad for him, because I certainly don't, but he looks pretty pathetic and to everyone. I mean, it's very transparent how stupid he looks, so I can only laugh at him.
He's like that one reporter for Fox News that asked the questions for the White House press secretary, and they're just so off the wall, and it's just like, all right, what's your question today?
I don't watch the news.
I know. You do get this thing called Twitter, right? And occasionally things that even if you don't sign up for do come across your feed.
Yeah.
That would be one of them.
This is our first training camp report, and before we go crazy, just kind of along the same vein here is there's been, as of this recording, only 4 practices, 3 of which I think were not in pads. So there's not really a whole lot to glean from this. If we were actually at the practices that have taken place, then we'd probably have more to say. But I don't feel comfortable pretending to give analysis on things I haven't seen. And also, I don't think we've seen enough to really dive into any of that shit anyway. So this is just kind of, where we are right now and what we know right now. And
putting things in perspective, too. Like, we hear something, if you look on Twitter, you would think that Daniel Jones is throwing left-handed. But come on.
I'm so, did Wes Steinberg have his best troll tweet yet with the hitting a handicap person? Because it's now been so long that we've been accustomed to Wes Steinberg that I saw that one. I'm like, no one's going to believe that. And then hours later, I checked the quote tweets on it, and it's hysterical how 99% of the quote tweets literally think that happened. Amazing.
I mean, we should do a poll. Who do you trust more, Wes Steinberg or Pat Leonard?
Oh, my God. Yo, my friend sent me Wes Steinberg's tweet, in an Instagram DM the next day. That's how far that tweet came around. It came all the way back around to my neighborhood. Outstanding shit. But you know what? I just kind of said how we're not really going too crazy, but I'll start with the one thing that is pissing me off.
Uh-oh.
John Feliciano has made 1 practice so far. He has not, none of the practices that he's missed, only today was one that was padded. But he's had hydration issues now, and I understand that it's summer and it's hot and he's a big guy and whatever. But, dude, hydration issues making you miss 4 straight days this early, I think it's okay to be pissed off at that, right?
That sounds like that's a symptom of something worse than hydration.
It may be, but he wasn't my favorite starter on the offensive line to begin with. He was somebody that I knew they brought in that they had some familiarity with, but he never really played center. He claims that he didn't play center in Buffalo because there were just guys ahead of him that were really good. So I needed to see shit from him, and for him to be in the first practice and then vanish is. I know it's early. It's only been 4 practices, but missing 3 out of 4 with hydration issues all in a row, I don't like that. That's annoying.
It sounds like we need to get more information before we get the guillotine out on him or get the turf to come out. But
and again, that's not where I'm taking it. I'm not saying that he's a piece of shit or a bad signing or he sucked, but we're counting on this guy to be a starter. We had to count on him, and I didn't want to count on him to begin with, and I'm already regretting that we're counting on him. Sucks.
And we're counting on this offensive line to get some cohesion together. And you're missing,
Absolutely. And the center is one of the most important spots for that because they're usually the ones calling out the protections and in communication with everybody.
Right. Like we're the first to say that these practices aren't life or death, but they are still practices and they are still building. Yeah, again, the offensive line has to play as one unit, and not having them there, it's not helpful. So I let's find out what's going on with him first.
Right.
But it's just it's one
But
of those
it but it
things.
is
It's like the
annoying.
Kadarius Toney thing last year. It's just like, it's just an annoyance.
Yeah,
And-
okay, but here's the difference. With Kadarius Toney last year, wide receiver was sort of seen as a luxury for that year. If Toney took a little while to get on the field, wasn't going to be a huge deal because at the time we had just signed Kenny Golladay. We also had Sterling Shepard. We were expecting things from Darius Slayton.
Oh, see, to me, everybody's the same. It's just like, I want you on the field. And if you're not on the field, I hope there's a good reason why. And until we know why, but it just comes annoyance. It's like, you're still not on the field. I need you out there. It doesn't matter if it's the deepest position we have or the thinnest. It's like, we need you. You're missing these practices. Well, especially with the early install and early reps and early
100%. And to further your point about needing this guy out here, to fill him in, they used Jameer Douglas, who, from all accounts, did a terrible job. They tried bringing Ben Bredesen in, and he also did badly. Things didn't get better until they moved starting left guard Shane Lemieux over to center for things to clean up. And now you've weakened 2 of 5 spots by doing that.
The starting 5 is adequate for now, but
I get
the problem with bad teams is once you get to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, there's a significant drop-off and a serious drop-off. We're talking about a backup center, not a third string guy, backup. And they're scrambling and they're, to your point, getting players out of position, and we're all jacked up already.
Right.
That's a problem.
And to be fair, I'm being a little bit more annoyed than I normally would be about this. It's just, this was like the one... There were maybe like 3 spots where I didn't want to see a training camp injury of any kind. This was one of them. And it's not really like an injury, I don't think, or whatever, but it's just frustrating because...
There's something going on.
Yeah, this is something that I needed this position to be hammered down. I wanted to feel comfortable with as much of the offensive line as possible. And to this early already be having an issue is annoying because it's just annoying. I'm not, whatever. I'm not trying to overreact or whatever, but this is the one thing that is annoying me. Dane Belton today showed up with a sling on. He had been getting a lot of first team reps as a third safety. He has a broken collarbone. I'm not as upset about that. That's what I mean. You know what I mean? Like, safety is another position that I think is really important, but a broken collarbone...
Are you more upset about why as opposed to who in this case? Like,
No, because I always viewed Dane Belton as safety 3.
Mm-hmm.
So even if he is a rookie and he probably needs as many reps as possible, and we're hoping that he would advance enough in the playbook to see some significant playing time, maybe eventually sub in over Julian Love, maybe become the second safety of the future. I don't fucking know. None of that's really important. The important thing is that immediately this year, if Dane Belton has to miss time, it's not the end of the world. Now, if our starting center is already missing time, that's what's making me mad. It's where they are in the depth chart.
Are you more annoyed because it's the starting center, or it's because it's a heat stroke thing? Why can't getting it on the field?
I mean, I would say it's a little bit of both.
Because it sounds like you're more annoyed at the fact that, we're missing our starting center, as opposed to, this sounds like a lingering something that doesn't seem like it's that serious, but he's not playing.
Well, it's a little bit of both, but I acknowledge that being told it's a hydration issue may be a symptom and not a cause, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm holding off. But if it is just that, it's just him not being able to handle the heat, that's incredibly frustrating because, dude, like, I could drink enough water to handle the heat. Like, why can't you?
Well, it's on the coaching staff and it's on the support staff to make sure,
I guess. I don't know. It is an infuriating thing because if it is just that, it's a simple fix. It just takes a little bit of diligence, I guess.
It shouldn't take 3 days.
It shouldn't take 3 days, especially when you're not wearing fucking pads yet.
And then what happens?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm waiting to see with John Feliciano. The reason it's important is because, from what I understand, the offensive line looked good when he was in there. Again, in pads, not really hitting, but they looked bad when he wasn't there, so it's important. Mm-hmm. The other injuries, DB Jaron Williams was released today, Monday, with an injury designation / settlement. I don't know the nature of that. In response, the Giants signed Jared Wilson. And also, importantly, the thing people were freaking out about was Dane Daniel Bellinger being on the PUP list to start the year. As soon as training camp started, he was off the PUP list.
He was off it.
Yeah.
So
he passed his physical immediately and started
Yeah.
playing. Contrary to that, John Feliciano can't do anything. So for 3 straight days. So getting mad. Am I being crazy? You can say.
A little bit.
Okay.
I mean, I think. What year is he? How long has he been in the league?
I think he's like 30 or like
okay, so
29,
he's
28.
also somebody that's not a rookie and not first year learning how to be a professional.
I'm gonna look that up so I don't look stupid, but keep talking.
Yeah, I'm more concerned about what it means. What's wrong with him as opposed to he's not out there. Again, like you said, I think we both said it. This sounds like a symptom more than a
cause.
A cause. And if it's something where he's, physically sick. And
yeah, like if he has the flu or something, and that's why he's dehydrated and dealing with heat things.
Right.
Okay,
it's
fine.
It's just bad timing.
Yeah, it's just and that's fine because I know he'll recover from that. It's not a matter of him not being diligent with his own body.
So I'm going to put you at about 12% crazy. But
okay,
that's it. Not bad.
Yeah, and again, I have a show where I talk a lot about things, but in reality, and how I feel about this in the realm of the Giants is very small. It's just a minor
let me
annoyance.
ask you. Last night, if you have an 8 hours sleep, how many hours did you sleep? Worrying about this.
Oh, I slept
the full 8 hours in.
Yeah, I slept the whole 8 hours.
Okay, so then we're not that worried. If it was 3:30 and I texted you like, "Hey, bro, what's going on?" and you're like,
"Man, fucking John."
Then I got some concerns, but I think you probably slept through the night with this one.
Are you feeling good that Shane Lemieux looks, from all accounts that I've heard, okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right? That's great news, right?
No, I'm disappointed.
I mean, I think fans have forgotten because Shane Lemieux only came in the tail end of 2020, his rookie year. He was a 5th-round pick, remember? He was not no second-round pick. But, he came in the tail end. He was only really good at run blocking, had some struggles in the pass blocking, missed all of 2021, being injured in, I think, OTAs, right?
Yes.
He got injured in the spring towards the end of OTAs, missed all of training camp, and then I think he played 3 downs in week 1.
Very little. Right.
I think they forgot that there was room for him to grow.
Mm-hmm. And then it's out of sight, out of mind. You don't think about him,
but it's also fair to not want to count on the guy. But I'm not surprised that he is rounding out his game. I'm not surprised that he is snapping the ball. That was something that we saw him practicing, I think, before the combine or something like that.
Well, that's what we said earlier. It's just the depth on this offensive line scares the hell out of us. And if he's back and he's, the number 6 guy that we can count on, then that's huge. Very important.
Yeah.
So I'm very thrilled.
And the fact that Josh Azudu doesn't have to go straight from North Carolina to the New York Giants is also great. That he can kind of round out his game because Josh Azudu is not an earth mover of a lineman coming out of college. He's certainly not. Though we are excited for him as well. Let's move to, what do you want to talk about? Offense?
Let's talk offense.
All right,
that
cool.
seems to be the pain points for so many people needlessly, but let's talk about it.
So I know that some people seem to think that offense is usually ahead of the defense in training camp, summer, preseason. I think when you're installing a new offense, even if you're installing a new defense at the same time, the offense is always going to be a little bit behind because offenses operate on like a clock and it's like a machine and everything has to go together. Defenses, to a certain extent, also do the same thing, but they also are just kind of reacting to offenses in a certain way. They just
The thing is also, as much as you can, you're kind of quote unquote game planning on your offense right now. You're not doing on defense. You're not doing any exotic blitzes. You're not doing.
Oh, but the Giants are.
Yeah, but they're not like fully going after the quarterback. They're not touching the quarterbacks or anything, So it's you're kind of only going at 3/4 speed on defense, or on offense you're basically going 100% speed.
Yeah, I just think that offenses require 11 guys to be in the right spot at the right time, and defenses only really need to be where the offensive guy is or in the backfield. You know what I mean? Like a breakdown on a pass rush just ends up in the quarterback having more time in the pocket. A breakdown in pass protection, your quarterback is dead. Yeah. It's just the results are more catastrophic when offenses are screwed up. And I'm not shocked to hear that the offense is not doing as well as the defense right now.
But they're not even playing like real game situations.
No, well,
these are drills. So
right,
I think people are just let them do their drills. It's it's great the fans are back. I'm really happy we're in a sense of normalcy. But again, the negative for that is everybody's watching every single drill, and a drill is a drill.
Yes.
A drill is to get reps and get you ready for the season. It's not, I think fans and the media too much thinks that every play is an evaluation. And sometimes it's just a drill. It's just repetition and doing things over and over and learning what this new offense is and learning new plays and learning new formations and where do I need to be and what snap are we going and all these different things. And you have to work those kinks out, and that's okay. But I think when everybody's watching, everybody's so quick to, everybody's a podcaster and everybody's a reporter and everybody's a pundit and they have to make an opinion on it. And it's just like, let's at least wait till a game situation before we start making these, pronouncements about what's going on and or things ahead of it or behind us. They're just doing reps.
Yeah, to your point, and I'm not gonna. I know I'm gonna come off this way, but I'm not trying to be like a Jones homer or anything like that. But Brian Daboll did say that like the one practice they were strictly practicing like 3rd and long, which is like those are situations you want to be in as few as possible in a real game scenario. But you practice them so that you can convert them. Mm-hmm. But when you do a whole day of that, you're gonna have an offense that doesn't do as well as a day where you're practicing. Normal drives.
We have 100 years of NFL stats in history that say that when you're 3rd and 11 and 3rd and 9 and 3rd and 10, your 3rd down completion percentage and your 1st down conversion rate is pretty low. Mm-hmm. So if you're just practicing things,
Also, if you're also running an offense for the 4th time ever, you're going to be even worse at it than you would be at, and it's a hard situation. The other thing was, there was a lot of criticism about an interception that Daniel Jones threw deep down the field, which I think was to Dane Belton. Brian Daboll today said that was a situation in which he wants Daniel Jones to throw the ball even if the play isn't there, just to see how DBs react, which I guess is a game situation where they want to, I guess, exploit maybe a team not expecting them to push the ball downfield, or maybe a team that has a lockdown corner that they think we're not even going to look his way, or whatever the case may be. This was a situation in which the coach wanted him to throw the ball no matter what. So that clip that we all saw of him throwing a ball almost directly to Dane Belton was almost ordered by the coach. Listen, I don't think he wanted him to throw a pick, but I think he wanted, I know he wanted him to throw the ball downfield.
The media and the fans do not have what Brian Daboll and the coaching staff have scripted out. I mean, these coaches have, their day planned to the minute, the snap, everything. And unless you're privy to that, knowing you're reacting to what you see, you don't know what's been prepared for that particular drill. And, these drills are not just for the offensive alone. There is a defensive side, and they're trying to do drills on things as well. How are they reacting to a ball that's overthrown? I mean, you run some plays to have the quarterback overthrow or something. So, again, I'm not going to freak out about anything in a drill. it's a drill. It's a rep. That's all it is.
Yeah, I'll start freaking out if things look bad in preseason games.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, again, if you have a narrative coming in that you are anti Daniel Jones or pro Daniel Jones, what you see is just going to further
confirm that. Yeah. So the offense is clearly adjusting to the new system. They're getting their feet wet. There's been bad protection. There's been some late throws. There's also been some drops. It's kind of been around. It has not just been Jones. And they're also definitely allowing Jones to take risks and make mistakes in practice. This is something that we've been told already, so we shouldn't be surprised by it, but I'm just reminding everyone. What were you going to say?
I'm pleasantly surprised a little bit because, coach speak in the offseason, they'll say things, and then, when we actually get to practice in preseason and games, you don't ever see it. So at least I'm pleasantly surprised to actually see something they said they were going to do. What I was going to say was, so you don't necessarily agree with Pat Leonard that after 3 practices, we really should be considering bringing in Tyrod Taylor to run this offense?
I wonder if there is a single thing that Pat Leonard and I agree on.
I mean, let's just take that. Forget who said it, and forget about the absurdity. Let's take this as seriously. I don't want to hear the name Tyrod Taylor at all unless Daniel Jones is hurt.
Yeah.
Even if Daniel Jones is terrible through week 5 and week 6, I think we all agree, and I think deep down in the coaching staffs, in the pit of their soul, they know that this team's not going to the Super Bowl this year, and they know this is year 1 of the rebuild, and they want to see what they have in everybody. So the leash that Daniel Jones is going to get is going to be a lot longer than the fans want and the media is going to howl about. I mean, they're trying to make a decision that's going to impact the next 5 years of this franchise, from a...
And they want to make the right choice there.
Exactly. So to say after 3 unpadded, series of drills to think about the backup quarterback, and this backup quarterback is not he's not Trey Lance. He's not the second pick in the draft.
No,
he's the heir apparent.
He's like 31 or something.
He's
32.
a journeyman backup who's brought in to, at best, hold the fort down for a game or two to hold up for potential playoff spot, and at worst, prevent what happened last year where we didn't have a qualified quarterback on this roster, and
we QB sneaked.
Yeah, which half of you idiots end up getting the coach fired because of, in your opinions. So I don't want to hear his name. I'm sure he's a nice guy, and he's probably very good at his job at being a backup quarterback. But any talk of him coming into a game, to me, has to be if Daniel Jones is hurt, and that's it. Otherwise, I think you're doing a disservice to Daniel Jones, this coaching staff, and this organization to not find out everything you can possibly can about this quarterback before you make that decision.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna talk a little bit about this guy now, and there's a reason though. Just because we kind of are venturing a little bit into the Joe Shane side of things a little bit.
Okay.
It seems to be clear from all accounts that Wan'Dale Robinson is a planned part of this offense, almost as if he was a straight-up Brian Daboll, Mike Kafka pick in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Everything seems to be... He has probably the most interesting concepts in every single play. I mean, he's doing all kinds of crazy motion. He's lining up all over the fucking place. That being said, I think it's also important to know that even this draft... Like, just keep in mind that Joe Shane, I think, really anchored on the few people he could trust. The assistant GM we got from Philadelphia was his name Brandon Brown, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And Brian Daboll, Mike Kafka, and Wink Martindale. I think he leaned on them because remember, even after the draft, there were more front office guys fired. Chris Mara had his title changed again. I think that honestly, he didn't have like a real obviously he didn't have the draft process he wanted. That's such a dumb statement. But you know what I'm saying? Like, he was kind of flying through this draft, just kind of not even knowing who he could trust in the building.
Right.
So like, just keep that in mind. I think that when you consider that, I think it appears that he hit this draft out of the park. And also, that he might have... I understand the date. It's August 1st. It appears that he hit this draft out of the park. Considering the handicap that he had, that's pretty goddamn impressive, I gotta say.
I'm not going to go that far just yet. I got to see it.
The other thing... Sorry. In addition to that, which, by the way, that was the more minor point. The more major point is he may even have more time on his, I guess... projected resume than we realized because this year was such a null draft.
I think you get a mulligan, I think, for this year because of the limited time. And I'm not going to say hitting it out of the park yet. I mean, again, that's winning the offseason, and that's great.
Okay, hang on. A draft, by the way, hitting a draft out of the park does not mean if you have 11 picks, getting 11 starters. That's not what hitting a draft out of the park is. But the fact that he has Wan'Dale Robinson appears to be a major part of this offense, and by the way, he's looking pretty good in camp. Kayvon Thibodeau is addressing a need that this team has had for a decade and a half. Evan Neal is addressing a need that this team has had a decade and a half. Though that when you nail your first, like, say 4 picks, which Josh Azudu will see, that's a fucking good draft. And I don't care that 2 of them were in the top 10 because teams screw up picks in the top 10 every year.
Yeah,
Every year.
I mean,
Every year.
what's the number one discussion about the Giants is potentially blowing a number 6 pick on a quarterback that may not be re-signed.
Oh my
So
God!
you're right.
Every pick was a disaster. Kadarius Toney was the wrong pick, and Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley and everyone but Andrew Thomas. We talk about blowing a first round pick every single year. We have people complaining about it. So the
Well-
fact, even if it's so obvious, he still didn't blow it. I don't think. So
Yeah.
far, everything looks like it was the right idea.
And I'm going to say, as much as Wan'Dale Robinson, we think is, going to be a major part, Kadarius Toney has had a really good camp as
Yes,
well.
he has,
So,
yes.
so if that's the case, they're both, the two twins that really are, the catalyst for this offense, then all of a sudden you have to go back and revisit what that draft the year before and say, well, it wasn't a bust of a draft if they got him.
Yeah.
So I think it's too early. I mean, it's way too early for this year's class.
Uh-huh.
And I still think it's even too early for last year's too. I mean,
Yes.
let's see if Kadarius Toney. I mean, last year was a victim of circumstance with a lot of little things unrelated came together, and you have this conclusion of this guy. Everything went wrong. So far, everything seems to be going right now. Again, let's see it on the field in a real game. Let's see if he can stay healthy for 17 games. Let's see if there's no issues with him or anything. But I really think having not one but two guys with similar skill sets that are matchup nightmares, all of a sudden makes the rest of that offense a lot more interesting. All of a sudden, Saquon Barkley becomes much more of a weapon. Kenny Golladay all of a sudden becomes a weapon.
Matt Breida.
Whatever tight end we can, Matt Breida, becomes a. I just think those two guys are wild cards, meaning that they are weapons that very few teams have. And when you watch a team like Kansas City last year, it was, they have receivers like that where it's just like they get the ball in their hands. You don't know what's going to happen next from, stride to stride. And we haven't had that excitement around here in a long time. I mean,
Not since Beckham, I would say.
Beckham had it, but that was just. But he was such a unique talent also. But he was still like more of a traditional wide receiver. These are guys that could get the ball 4 yards in the line of scrimmage and go 80 yards potentially, or just weave in and out of traffic in so many different ways. They could end arounds or whatever. And we have two of them.
Mm-hmm.
So that just makes it a potential coaching headache and nightmare for opposing staffs.
Some fun offensive notes that we've been hearing is Richie James, wide receiver, has been a bit of a surprise, making a ton of catches. So he is a guy that I'm going to zero in on preseason since Darius Slayton is falling apart. And
a special teamer too, right?
Oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure. And also, Andre Miller, the super tall wide receiver they took undrafted out of Maine, has been converting to tight end and has been getting some good reps there as well. That's also interesting because tight end is fucking wide open as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's still very. I always say this every season when we do this show. I always make the comment, our starting X is not on this roster yet. And tight end might be one of those positions also where our starting tight end in week one might be practicing another training camp
in another
somewhere.
uniform.
Exactly.
Let's switch over to defense, yeah?
Let's do it.
Biggest news that we've heard, as far as I'm concerned, is that Darnay Holmes is having a camp of all camps, and I couldn't be happier for him.
Sure.
Darnay Holmes is a guy who has a good skill set. I was on board. He was not a pre-draft guy for me, so I had no loyalty to him being picked or anything like that. When I saw the tape, I knew he had the skills. He didn't do all that much in his. I almost said freshman, in his rookie year, and then his second year. In his second year, he kind of got phased out of what Patrick Graham was really trying to do there, and it just, Aaron Robinson was drafted, was kind of more of his go-to guy, so was Rodarius Williams, and I think he just kind of tumbled down the depth chart, and also didn't really fit so much what Patrick Graham had to convert the defense to make up for lack of a pass rush. Now, in Wink Martindale's thing of being aggressive, and again, I have not been to practice yet. I will be at practice by the time the next time you guys hear this show.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll also be at FanFest. But it seems that this aggressive defense that allows him to just cash in and jump routes and cut underneath things is perfect for him because I think he's had an interception every single day, which is insane. I mean, he's not no starting outside corner where, he's getting a ton of nonstop reps like Adoree Jackson is. So, that's fantastic. It's good to hear.
Did he have the pick six on Jones? Was that him?
Yes, but again, we weren't there, so I didn't until today realize that I was listening to the Talking Giants cast, and Bobby and Justin were describing that was kind of a situation where it seemed like the defense sort of knew what the offense was running, and it was like a bubble screen. So, like, once he had the interception, there's nobody in front of him. He just has green grass. So that didn't really seem like a game scenario, but I'm not going to take it away from him either.
No. If you're going to blast the quarterback for throwing it, you should praise the guy who made the play, too.
Sure, yeah. I mean, this is fantastic to hear because I'm not hearing bad things about Aaron Robinson either. I haven't been reading bad things about Aaron Robinson. He got picked on a little bit in, like, red zone drills and stuff, but he's also playing against Kadarius Toney. Aaron Robinson on the outside may be a little bit better than I certainly thought. I like him more in the slot position as like your nickel corner, but I will gladly take any L that's, better for the team.
Sure, absolutely. Again, I think that backfield's going to be only as good as the pressure that's provided up front. Mm-hmm. Again, I think once we start seeing training camp, preseason games, we'll get a little bit of better gauge of that. But every extra step that Kayvon Thibodeau can provide in putting pressure on makes it a little easier for these guys in the back to do their job. And I think that's going to be as much of a schematic thing for those guys back there as individual talent until we get some real studs back there.
Another really, really, really dangerous position I felt was inside linebacker. And I know that they went out and they got Micah McFadden, they got Darian Beavers. I like both of those guys for different skill sets that they present, but neither one of them is a 3-down linebacker that I feel comfortable anchoring the middle. It has been very pleasant to hear that Blake Martinez looks good out there. That's nice to hear because he did get injured early on. I think he's still
not... Is he fully cleared to play or like full contact and stuff? Or what's his status?
I believe he is fully cleared, but I believe the coaching staff is holding him out of team periods on their own volition.
Okay.
That's my thought process. But, even Jordan Renan, I think, actually, like, quote tweeted me and was saying that he looked good even back in the spring. And, like, I know that they all said that then, but, like, I don't really trust a reporter to be like, yeah, he looks good, like in shorts. You know what I mean? Like I don't trust that. But the fact that he looks good in training camp is a different thing for me. Even if that's shorts, it's still not OTAs.
Right.
So I knew he was running and moving real well in the spring. That's good to hear. But the fact that he's practicing real well in training camp, that's fantastic. I was not expecting that. I believe both of us had him being cut from the team, partially because of injury and partially because of his contract. His contract was reworked, which I thought was weird, but thank God that Joe Shane knows more than I do, I guess, because I would be very uncomfortable with the combination of any of Tay Crowder, Micah McFadden, Darian Beavers out there.
Agreed.
Speaking of combinations, a lot of what we've been hearing is Wink Martindale is throwing the entire kitchen sink onto the practice field because he is practicing his plays for the defense. And it's confusing the shit out of the offense, too. And it's kind of cool to see because, like, I don't know, a reporter will say, like, oh, look at this touchdown by Kadarius Toney or something. And I'll look at it and be like, whoa, we're faking double A-gap pressure and bailing into coverage. And then, like, the safety came all the way from over there to blitz. Like, definitely cool shit that he's doing. It's very, very interesting. We're seeing some formation things that we haven't seen.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Saying it's confusing the shit out of the offense. How's the defense doing? Have you heard reports of, mass confusion and communication issues with them, or are they slowly getting it, or what have you been hearing?
So I think the defense has been okay so far. I haven't been hearing a lot about the defense having miscommunications or anything like that. I think it's also harder to tell. When an offense screws up, usually the play is fucked. A defense can screw up, and the offense may not catch it, or it may not, be on the play side of the ball, so nothing happens with it. They could bust a coverage and the QB doesn't even see because it's a screen. Like there's all sorts of mistakes a defense that can make that an observer wouldn't catch because it had nothing to do with the play and it didn't actually affect the end result. So I haven't been hearing anything about the defense having mass miscommunication. I've been seeing a couple clips where maybe people aren't getting deep enough in their coverage and,
Good.
balls are going over their head and things like that. But I'm not seeing any reports of mass confusion on the defensive side.
Because I can tell you, and we've referenced this a few times in the show, having just gone through a defense similar to this on the college side with Florida, the biggest mistakes, and the biggest problems that defense had was the communication problems. And they like to throw the kitchen sink at the quarterback, and didn't have the type of pressure they wanted, and all of a sudden a safety's looking at a linebacker or something, and next Wan'Dale Robinson is running for 80 yards for a touchdown against us, for example. So especially year one, as you're converting over to this different style of defense, I'm expecting to see, more than once this happened, and that's okay. It's,
No, Brian Daboll said it the best. I want you to make your mistakes in training camp.
Yeah. Well, I think as the season starts, again, remember, these guys are not going to play that much in preseason, and one of our hopes was we actually treat these preseason games to prepare for the regular season. But I think you're going to see some of these, probably more than you're used to. And I know Pat Leonard, is going to write an article saying, this defense is unprepared and just looks like mass, like a big mess. When just keep that in mind, that it's going to take a little bit for this defense to gel and to know where they're supposed to be and what their assignments are. Because a lot of these guys are going to be put on an island. And if they're not where they're supposed to be, it could look really, really bad.
I have to say, I've been blocked by Pat Leonard for about a year now. It's made my life a lot happier. So he can write any article he wants. I won't see it. So there's always that.
Unfortunately, I'm irrelevant, so he doesn't know who I am yet. But I'll be sure to let you know.
I think I'm only blocked by like 3 or 4 people, and I mean like media people, not.
Oh.
I'm sure more than that have blocked me. Almost
I've
guaranteed.
blocked your ass. That's for sure.
But I don't think any of them made any sense. Like I just one day was like, what? How did I get blocked by this guy? When did that happen? So whatever. Who knows what I did? I don't think anything. But so some interesting alignment things that we've heard. Dexter Lawrence getting some nose tackle reps. I think some people are more into that than I am. Not that I think that that's bad, but I just think that he's more than that. I think he's more than a space eater, even if he is pretty good at that. And then we went out and we drafted some nose tackles. So were those just wasted picks just to put Dexter Lawrence? I don't know.
Well,
I think Dexter Lawrence can do more.
It's also day 4 of training camp, and I think they're just trying little things, and maybe it's just purely just for reps. Let's get a body in there to execute the rep. So I wouldn't read too much into that, and maybe there's some cross training that they're trying to do. Who knows? I think if we see this in the first or second preseason game, I'll start thinking, what's going on here? But for right now, it could be a variety of reasons what's happening.
No, I mean he should get the reps there. I mean he should be probably the second nose tackle. If our starting nose tackle is hurt and can't go that week, he should be the backup. He should know the plays. He should do that. I'm just saying. I think more people were excited about that than I would be. To me, that's less than ideal. I think he's better not playing there, but that's just my 2 cents. That's all.
Having him as the backup as opposed to someone they just drafted off, and may not be ready. Yeah, makes sense.
The other thing is, so Justin Panic broke down some of the looks that we're getting, which is 1 D lineman looks with Leonard Williams. So Leo is the only D lineman. Then you have 3 edge guys with Kayvon Thibodeau, Ojolari probably, but because he's on the side, it's Quincy Roche and Jihad Ward. Then in the middle, you have Blake Martinez or Tate Crowder. And then you just have 5 DBs with Adoree Jackson,
a
Aaron Robinson.
1-4-6. It's sounds like some crazy soccer formation.
That would be. No, it would be.
1 + 4 + 6 is 11.
Oh yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Yes, it's sorry. It's a 1-4-6. I didn't write down the 6th DB. That's why I was like, no, it's not. But yeah, so then you have your 3 safeties and then a nickel corner. And that's kind of been the look. I didn't write down the nickel corner's name, which I assume is Darnay Holmes, because your outside guys are Adoree Jackson and Aaron Robinson. Then you have your three safeties are Dane Belton, who was kind of sitting a lot in single high looks. And then you had McKinney low and Love even lower. And then you had your nickel guy, which I assume was Darnay Holmes, but could be, I don't know, somebody else, I guess.
Very interesting.
But definitely a strange alignment. One D lineman is such a departure from the Dave Gettleman era of gathering defensive tackles, I guess. But yeah, I think that's cool. I like that. I think that's probably the idea is going to be to get as much speed on the field as possible in those scenarios. And I think that's probably the unit to do that. I would say maybe you could get Ellerson Smith on there somewhere as well. Though from a pure pass rush standpoint, he's not better than the three pass rushers I listed.
So would this be like a formation, like almost like a prevent defense thing? Like we're up.
I don't think so. I think this is more of an aggressive defense. I think you're getting speed up there, and you have a bunch of guys who can cover and blitz. So you don't know who is who.
So the linebackers are crashing in this situation, and as opposed to the linemen?
I would say that you probably have three guys in Thibodeau, Ojulari, and Jihad Ward who could rush or drop into shallow coverage, and you don't know which because they're going to show rush. You have a guy with Blake Martinez who could also do the same thing. And then of the DBs, any of those guys could drop or pressure, except for Dane Belton, who's back the furthest deep.
So I said, would this be like almost like a prevent thing? So you're not expecting the run in situations like this?
No, I wouldn't say it's a prevent, but it's definitely a passing situation that you're trying to exploit a mistake.
That's really what I meant more. It's like these are obvious passing situations. Like, and again, a team is down by 10 with 2.5 minutes left, and they're starting in their own 20 or something.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's really good. And I think that's really the aim, is to get as much speed on the field as possible and to just make a quarterback look and be like, everyone's showing pressure. Every single one of these guys could be blitzing me, and they all could drop into coverage, and it would be perfectly viable. And I think that's kind of the idea, is to just get as many do-it-all kind of guys with speed on the field at the same time.
It's make these quarterbacks think, and that's,
Or just think twice.
Right.
Time wasted is time they can't afford. And that's kind of, I think, the idea. So I'm interested in seeing that. I have no more defensive notes other than that. But I am really interested in watching the defense, I think, more than the offense in the practice that's coming up Tuesday. And then for Fan Fest, where we'll be in the stadium, I believe.
Well, we're going to be there Wednesday for practice, right?
That's what I certainly meant to say. Wednesday, August 3rd, yes. Because by the time you guys hear this, it will be Tuesday.
That's
August
right.
2nd.
And we will not be there. So
no, I will not be there.
Some of us have jobs, so we have to work. So, but Wednesday we are playing hooky. And we are going to practice. Very exciting.
Yeah. So I'm going to be keying on the defense because I think I have more questions about that, and I have more, I would say, lenience with the offense and learning a new system, and perhaps Daboll not having half of the weapons that he thinks he should have.
Well, I'll tell you what, then I'll focus on the offense while we're doing that, and maybe we'll even have a surprise episode later in the week based on what we saw.
We could. And then I will be at FanFest as well. We'll be in the stadium. I'm pretty sure that's where we were last year, where I'll have a better view of like the overall, because when you're at training camp, the bleachers only go so high, and sometimes things are far. When you're in a stadium, you're high enough up off the ground, even in the lowest seats, so you can see everything.
Is FanFest a practice, or is it just more like a meet and greet? I wasn't there, so I don't know.
It was a practice last year, but I mean, it was also a little different. It was the first time they did it, but it was a practice in the stadium.
Oh, in the stadium. Gotcha.
Yeah. And they kind of had everyone in different spots, and you could move around to a different spot if you wanted to. But
unfortunately, I will not be at FanFest. I will be in beautiful Boise, Idaho for that. But I will be there Wednesday at practice with Grump, and we'll see all our old friends. And if you recognize these ugly mugs, come by and say hi.
Oh yeah, please. This is the fun stuff, and I'm gonna shout out at ACL_tears, who hit me up with the practice tickets like 8 minutes before we recorded this episode.
Thanks, man.
On a whim, got us to get to practice, which was sick because I've never.
Come find us. We'll buy you a Coke.
Yeah. Actually, ACL Tears. If you are going to any games this year, DM me privately on Twitter, and I will find a way to. I'll buy you a beer or something like that. I'll make something happen.
It's a great handle.
I got nothing else for this episode. Anything?
I'm just glad we're getting closer and closer to real football, and no more talk about hypotheticals during the off season. Now we're actually seeing the birth of a team, and I'm excited about Wednesday of getting there and seeing these drills and seeing the competition, because it's a competition for these guys, and hopefully the better talent we have better competition and we have better players, and that's the first way to get out of being such a horrible team. So I'm looking forward to. We're also going to the home preseason game, right? We've confirmed that.
I mean, you said let's do that, and I said yes. Whether
That's
or
all the
not,
confirmation we have. But yes,
if you have the tickets, then yeah.
Yeah, I have the tickets. So
then it'll be your first ever Giants preseason game.
I've been up here now. This will be my 21st year living back up in New York, and I've never been to a preseason game. I've always either just didn't care or had plans or whatever, but I think we should do it. We need to practice. We need to get our tailgate game going also. We don't want to go into the first game unprepared. So
yeah, I don't want to look like a fool when it counts.
No.
This is our chance to drink too much and throw up, and
So I've talked to the powers that be about tailgating, and they're working on a plan. So it may not be the biggest one ever, but we'll have something, details to be announced shortly.
I'm excited for that because I don't know what you're talking about. So, all right, I guess that's gonna do it for us. We will be at practice on Wednesday, as we said, and maybe there will be an episode following that. So stay tuned. Follow us at @football_grump on Twitter, at the Cranky Fan on Twitter, and at Just Giants Pod on Twitter for any updates about that. If there isn't an episode, or if there is, regardless, there will be one the same time next week with Training Camp Report number 2.
And and if you want to hear my misery about being a Rays fan, check out my solo pod, the Cranky Fan Pod, on the FL Teams YouTube channel. You Yankee fans, I'm sure you'll enjoy hearing me bitch and moan, because I've had a lot to bitch and moan lately.
Yeah, no, seriously, this is the preseason for football. So those of you who are baseball fans, especially Yankee fans, Met fans, Rays fans, those teams are going to the playoffs, it looks like. So it's the time to pay attention to AL East stuff if you're a Yankee fan. And I hate baseball, and I've listened to multiple episodes of that show, and it's actually very, very good baseball stuff. So
we had our good friend Nicky Snacks, who's been on this show before, and he's been on Talking Giants all the time. He's been on my show to talk.
And he was fantastic on that episode.
He's awesome on it, so he'll be on there again for sure as we get closer to the playoffs and everything. So as it heats up, our little rivalry, we're brothers on Sundays and we're enemies
every other day.
The other 6 days of the week, I don't know. No, man, I love you, Snacks.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. We will see you either later this week or next week. Go Giants.
Go Giants.